Radha Krishna Foundation presents SAMARPAN, an offering of service.
वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय, सद्गुरु महाराज की जय। ओम नमः शिवाय, 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 ओम नमः शिवाय। Happy Shivaratri to everyone. As we prepare ourselves for Shivaratri in just a few days, here are a few very vital pieces of information from Shiv Puran. Here Bhagavan Shankar is explaining the 9 forms of devotion in Shiv Puran to Mata Parvati. This is taken from the Rudra Samhita. Shivji explains to Mata Parvati on a very familiar topic, Naura Bhakti as we call it, or the 9 forms of devotion. But we will uncover, as we examine some of these verses, an underlying requirement in these conditions, these 9 verses, that will lead us to most easily benefit from our worship to Bhagavan Shankar. Naura Bhakti is in this verse of Shiv Puran, and then we'll look at the meaning. Shravanam Kirtanam Chaiva Smaranam Sevanam Tatha Dasyam Tatarchanam Devi Bandhanam Mama Sarvada. Here Bhagavan Shankar is saying to Mata Parvati that the 9 forms of devotion are listening, eulogizing, remembering, serving, surrendering, worshipping, saluting, friendliness, and dedication to Bhagavan Shankar. But it is also further subdivided in Shiv Puran. Katadera nitya sammanam kurvan dehadivir muda stirasanena tatpanam yattachravanamuchyate. To listen, according to this verse, to the recitation of the divine glories, seated with a concentrated mind. This is called Shravanam, or listening. There's another verse that says, Hrida kashena sampancha janma karmani vai mama prityacho jacharam tesha metat kirtanamuchyate. Here it says to remember in the mind the details of my manifestations and my activities. This, according to Shiv Puran, is called Kirtanam. Again, the mind comes into play. If we do that, then it is equal to remembering Bhagavan. Let's take one more example very quickly. Arunodayamaarambhya seva kalicita hrida Nirvayatvam sada loke Smaranam tattudatyatam. Some people say that I don't necessarily have to do worship. I can just serve. Serve meaning by preparing the mandir, maybe, by having all the conveniences ready, the abhishekam and everything else for puja, have everything in place so devotees can come and they can worship. And if I do so, I will equally attain Shivji's blessings. This is good, but this is not the whole truth. Why? Because the verse here says that service rendered to Bhagavan with a concentrated mind. If when we're performing these services, we're remembering Bhagavan Shankar, then it is equal to, as the word is used as seva kale chitta hrida. Hrida, from the heart, these have to be done by remembering Bhagavan, and then it is equal to seva. As we can see from the aforementioned verses, there's one underlying condition. In any way we want to worship Bhagavan Shankar, and that is that the mind has to be involved. So the first question, why Shivaji is emphasizing so much on the mind? Whether it's helping to clean the mandir or whether it's doing abhishekam on the linga of Bhagavan Shankar, the mind is the underlying ingredient that has to be there if we want to maximize on our benefits to Bhagavan Shankar. All possibilities are achieved, as we know, if the mind is involved. Shivaji, Bhagavan, has bestowed upon us this tremendous and limitless ability to benefit from. He has given us the power to benefit from just applying the mind in something. This is a very unique and most potent weapon. And constantly, he has reminded us, not only in Auda Bhakti but other places, that a mind has to be an integral part of our worship if we are to achieve the highest results. The mind is capable of anything or everything. The mind is what determines the quality of the result of anything that we do, especially when it comes to Shivratri and our worship to Bhagavan Shankar. The mind does not only give us spiritual or divine benefits. God has given us such a powerful mind that we can benefit in so many different ways, even physically. And so to answer the question why Bhagavan Shankar is emphasizing so much on the mind, that if we apply the mind we can get greater benefits, science has proven. One of the things that we can think of immediately is the famous piano study. Researchers at Harvard University, led by Pascal Leon, compared the brains of people playing a sequence, a combination of piano notes on a piano, of course, for 2 hours repeatedly for 5 days, and compared them to the brains of people imagining playing these same notes for 2 hours repeatedly for 5 days consecutively, of course, Monday through Friday. They had their brains imaged every day. They found that the region of the brain connected to the finger muscles was found to have changed to the same degree in both groups of people, whether they struck the keys or if they played the piano mentally. What scientists found was the area of the brain connected to the fingers began to grow like a muscle. And on the 5th day, when the test was done, it was substantially, that part of the brain connected to the muscle was substantially larger than the first day. So, you have physically shaped the structure of the brain by imagining something. So that is one of the amazing powers of the mind, that we can change the brain. This is one of the answers why Bhagavan Shankar is stressing on the mind should be applied when we're doing puja. This is called the power of imagination. In another study led by Morwedge at the Carnegie Mellon University, concludes that the brain isn't making a noticeable distinction between real and imaginary. It is this phenomenon, the fact that the brain processes something imaginary as if it were real, that allows sports people, for example, to benefit from mental visualization practices. That is the term science has given it. We're calling it the mind. Mental visualization means applying the mind, seeing something in the mind. Several studies have shown that players can improve on their golf shots, on their tennis strokes, on their net shots in basketball, in football, or in just about everything by imagining that. by practicing in their mind as well. The famous story of Raja Bannister, who on May 6, 1954, busted through the 4-minute barrier. When it was known and almost accepted by everyone that no one can run the mile under 4 minutes. It was thousands and thousands of years. No one could have done it. Raja Bannister, one day, he ran the mile in 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds. Completed a mile. How did he do that? After doctors, cardiologists were telling people, if you try this, you will burst your heart and die before you get to the finish line. Don't try it. No one has ever done it. Raja Bannister wanted to prove them wrong, and so what he did, over and over, he imagined. He saw himself going past the finish line in less than 4 minutes. Eventually, even though he was studying at that time, he didn't get to practice as much as the other people, yet he was the one who was able to cross the finish line. If we're talking about Puja and our Abhishekam, that God knows where the mind is, because everything else is created for you as a result of where the mind is. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about everything is created twice. Even the space station was created first from the thoughts, and then it manifested into something physical. That is the power of the mind. What does that mean? It means that our destiny can be shaped on where our thoughts are right now. We remember this. Watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. And watch your character, for they become your destiny. Lao Tzu. It starts from a thought into destiny. The power of benefiting from something by fixing the mind is a gift from God. Like we said, that is the only reason why the mind can be so powerful. So as human beings, let's capitalize on this to attain happiness in this life, because it is fixing the mind that makes a person into a devotee. Ananya chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nitya viyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. This is verse 22 of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Says that those who always think of me exclusively, to them whose minds are always absorbed in me, Sri Krishna says, Yogakshemam Vahamyaham, that I provide what they lack and I preserve what they already have. That is the power of the mind. Sri Krishna is saying, just fix the mind in me. I will give you everything you don't have, and what you have, I will protect it for you. So we can achieve a lot by proper focus on the right thing, just by harnessing the limitless power of the mind. In another study that shows the power of the mind, in a study at the Lerner Research Institute in Cleveland, imagining flexing the little finger for 15 minutes daily for 3 months was shown to increase muscle strength by 35%, but nobody ever lifted a finger. So this technique has also allowed people who have had a stroke to recover faster. This was demonstrated in several studies that compare patients receiving physiotherapy with patients doing visualization of movements as well as the physiotherapy. The study concluded that those who did the visualization along with physiotherapy practices recovered faster than those who did physiotherapy alone. A 2014 analysis of the use of mental imagery in stroke rehabilitation noted this compelling evidence as well, and concluded that it could be a viable intervention. Now, science is recommending this as an intervention. The study is saying that this could be a viable intervention, imagining doing physiotherapy in your mind, and that it renders unlimited practice opportunities, meaning that you can You can probably go and do therapy once a week or 3 times a week or even 5 times a week. But if you practice physiotherapy in the mind, this study is saying that all of a sudden you have unlimited practice opportunities. You can practice this all day long, as many times as you want. And the proof is, from the studies, that you'll continue to get better. So far, we have seen that by applying the mind, we can change many things, bodily and otherwise. And that God says that He will preserve what we have and provide what we don't have simply by applying the mind or remembering Him. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Man manabhav mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mame vaishasi satyam te pratijane preyosi me. Sri Krishna is saying that this is my pledge to you. This is my promise to you. Why? Because if you think of me, then you become pratijane priyosimi, then you become exceptionally dear to me. Place the mind in Bhagavan, do your work becomes worship, God accepts it. So Shivratri comes up and we want to perform our worship. How do we worship more often? We can accomplish everything, all the worship we want to do on Shivratri and beyond that, to our heart's content, in the simplest, needless to mention, the most effective way. Bhagavan Shankar tells us in the beginning that everything we do apply the mind. Sri Krishna reminds us in Bhagavad Gita, because God has given us the power of the mind to use. Shivji himself has given us this power. Why do I say that? Because most people know there's a stotra that is called the Shivamanastra Puja Stotra. Why did I say that Bhagavan Shankar himself has given us that? Because this was composed by Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya is a direct descension of Bhagavan Shankar. Padma Puran tells us this in the 6th book, in the 236th chapter. The 7th verse says, Mayeva katitam devi kalau brahma rupina. That Shankar Bhagavan is saying, he's telling Parvati Maya that kalau, that in Kali Yuga, I will come myself, Brahma Rupina, I will take the form of a Brahman and come in Kali Yuga to help devotees. And so this stotra, this Shivamanastra stotra that is given to us by Adi Shankaracharya, essentially has been given to us by Shivji himself. And so he has given us this to use to worship by using the mind only. With this stotra, we are worshipping Bhagavan Shankar in the most effective way. Ratnai kalapitamasanam himajalai snanam cha divyambaram nana ratna vibhushitam mrigamadam modam kitam chandanam jati champaka bilvapattarachitam pushpam cha dhupam tatha Deepam devadayani pashupate hat kalpitam grihyatam. There are a few verses in there, but this is the Manas Stotra that Bhagavan Shankar has given to devotees to worship him. In short, what it says, Ratnai kalapitamasanam himajalai snanam cha divyambara. I offer asan studded with gems for you. I bathe you in the cool waters from the Himalaya. Nana Ratna Vibhushitam Mrigamdamodam Kitam Chandanam, decorated you with various gems and with the marks of sandal paste. This is in your imagination, you're worshipping Bhagavan Shankar, putting chandan, etc. You're using kasturi to worship Bhagavan Shankar. Jati Champaka Billapatra Chitang Pushpam Cha Dhupam Tatha. You're using jasmine flowers, champak flowers, or whatever flowers you have. Billapatra Chitam, that you're offering bilwa leaves. We're using incense sticks to wave it around Bhagavan Shankar. Deepam deva dayanidhi pashupati hat kalpitam grihyatam. That we take an oil lamp, a diya, and we offer it to Bhagavan. And we're saying to him, oh Lord, please accept this our offering. All of this we're doing mentally. Bhagavan Shankar has given us this stotra, has defined the puja sequence in the stotra, so that we can do this anywhere and everywhere. In the last verse it says, Karacharana kritangva kayajam karamajam va sarananaina jamvan paradam vihitam va sarvameta kshamasva jai jai karunabdhe Sri Mahadeva Shambhu. That we're asking Bhagavan Shankar that, dear Lord, whatever sins that we've committed, whether knowingly or unknowingly, that I ask that you forgive me. In another verse it says, Atma tvangirajamati sahachara, that after having performed this worship with the mind, then in the last verse we're saying, Bhagwan, whatever we may have done, and we're not talking about the worship, because applying the mind and worshipping Bhagwan, one can commit no mistake. You can only commit a mistake worshipping Bhagwan when you're doing physical worship. In mental worship, this is bhakti. There are no mistakes in bhakti. If you have done something wrong or you're not doing this in the sequence of this stotra, you're not committing an offense. But yet you're saying, Karacharana kritangva kayajam karmajam va, Bhagavan, forgive me for all that I've done in the past, knowingly or unknowingly. Whether I've committed these sins by my ears or my eyes or my mind, however I've committed them, please forgive me. So this is how the stotra ends. So my dear friends, let us try to use this stotra, not only in Shivratri, but anytime. Because Manas Puja, we can do this as many times as we want. If we're at work on Shivaratri, how do we perform worship? Shivaratri is called Ashtapahar. Ashtapahar means 8 sections of the day in spans of 3 hours, starting from 6 in the morning. That is the first time we should do Abhishekam. Then 9, then 12, then 6, and then we continue into the night. If we would work during the day, we cannot do Abhishekam. So what do? Just ignore Shivaratri? But we want to achieve Bhagavan's blessings. This is why Bhagavan Shankar has given us the Shivamanastra, that we use this and it will take us 90 seconds. If we know it mentally, it will take us about 90 seconds. We'll chant the whole thing and we've performed a full Shiv Puja in the same way that we would have performed it in Mandir, which are Pandit, or when you have a puja at home. But the difference with Shivamanastra is that you can do the same Shiv Puja when you're in the train, going to work, or coming from work. So do Abhishekam when you have the opportunity, but remember, the underlying condition, even when you're doing physical Abhishekam, is to apply the mind to our worship. But like I said, in Shiv Puja, you can perform this anywhere, anytime, as many times as you want. And it is not inferior, by no stretch of the imagination, not by the scriptures, not by Bhagavan Shankar, is it inferior to your physical worship. Actually, it is more effective than physical puja. Why? The mind is applied to this worship. When you're doing physical worship, that is good, but if the mind is not applied while you're doing that physical worship, then it's not good enough. But in Shiv Manas Puja, the mind is applied, and this is why Bhagavan says, anything that you do, apply the mind when you're worshipping me. And then if you're not doing physical worship, if you're not chanting, if you're not listening, then here's Shiv Manas Stotra, use this and do Shiv Puja as many times as you want. This is also why the saint Kripaluji Maharaj has popularized this term Rup Dhyan. Rup Dhyan means meditation, Rup means in a form. Rup Dhyan is mental worship on a form of God. So let's use the mind to achieve what you want to achieve. Because the mind is so powerful. It's such a wonderful thing when it is used. Especially when the mind is used as a tool. It's a great resource. However, the same mind, when it calls the shots, it's a dangerous thing. So remember that. It's a beautiful thing when it's used as a tool. It's detrimental to us when it calls the shots. If we don't apply the mind in Bhagavan, it will call the shots for us. When you care for someone, that's when you'll think about them, right? If you like someone, parents and children and parents, lover and beloved, especially when they're far away from each other, they think about each other all the time. And by virtue of that, when you think of someone, let's say you have a parent far somewhere, and you would have forgotten that this parent needs something, but if you think about them, now you'll remember, oh, I needed to do this thing for them. So when you remember them like that, then you're able to do something for them. Then you're able, by virtue of remembering them, by virtue of thinking about them, then you're able to play your part to ensure that their needs are met. But Bhagavan stops short of that even, because Bhagavan needs nothing from us, nothing physical. If we think about family, we can do something with them based on what they need. Bhagavan says, think of me and then I need nothing. So only by thinking of me, you would have done enough. He needs nothing material from us. So just think of me lovingly and you shall attain me. But that approach also creates and secures behavior within the confines of dharma. Because when you're thinking of Bhagavan, you know God's rules, and so what you'll do? You'll ensure that you behave in a certain way, that you behave properly because you're remembering God. And this happens by default, just by thinking about God and remembering, you're not doing anything that is adharmic. When we behave in such a manner now, that makes us a model citizen. And you'll be able to live an exemplary life, one brimful with all kinds of benefits at all different levels, both materially and spiritually. That is the power of the mind. I want to leave you with this part of a shloka that says, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandhamokshayoha. This is Brahma Bindu Upanishad, the second verse. What it says, remember this, that a mind, mana eva, eva means only. The mind alone is the cause of your suffering and your freedom. So now that you're equipped with this knowledge of the mind's abilities, use the power of the mind to change your life, to achieve your goals, to eliminate unfortunate situations, to live your best life and your best self, and most importantly, to strengthen your devotion and ultimately realize the purpose of the human body, which is, it has the potential through the mind to make life into one that is extremely happy, but also to attain God. The mind can do both for us. Shiva Shankar Bhagavan ki Jai. Namami Shamisha Nirvana Rupam Vibhum Vyapakam Brahma Veda Swarupam Namami Shamisha Nirvana Rupam Vibhum Vyapakam Brahma Veda Swarupam Nijam Nirgunam Nirvikalpam Nariham Chidakashmakashvasam Vadeham Om Namah Shivaya Bolo Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Bolo Namah Shivaya Nirakar Omkar Moolam Turiyam Giradhyan Gotitamisham Girisham Karalam Mahakal Kalam Kripalam Gunagar Sansar Param Nadoham Om Namah Shivaya Bolo Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Bolo Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Bolo Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki Jai.